very few people can honestly and in all actuality so that they say that they have actually changed our lives, changed the way we live. But the Lincolns and the Fords and the Martin Luther Kings, they have one thing in common. And that is the possession of a limitless energy and the pursuit of a single goal, beat after beat after beat, day in and day out, every day for many years of their lives. And I have a feeling that over the past few weeks, let's take a poll. In the past 1 month, or in 2012, how many of you here have had a bite of a burger, or have had a taco, or have had any form of fast food in 2012? All right, how many times, right? He's going to keep his hand up for 10 minutes. How many of you have not? Shame on you. In 1955 AD, there was a shop in San Bernardino, California, making some waves. And it changed the life of an individual, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Ray Kroc was this young man. He liked to live life. He liked to live on the edge. And he was good at what he did. So he grew up, went to school, picked up a job at a local factory, and started selling paper cups. And he was good, so he sold a lot of paper cups. And over the course of a few years, some more years, and some more years, 2.5 decades passed, he rose to the top of his, or a few years passed, and he rose to the top of his plant's sales division. And then suddenly, he heard about this new innovation. A company was making this ugly, 6-spindled, huge mammoth of a machine that could churn out milkshakes. So, he liked milkshakes. And he said, let me go sell these machines. So he said, all right, I'm going to leave this job and strike out on my own. I'm going to buy these machines and sell them to dairies, to bars, to soda shops, to little canteens, to ice cream shops, and we'll see how we fare. He went to his wife and he said, honey, I'm going to quit my job. We're now going to be selling soda machines and milkshakers. We're going to be moving everywhere. Life is going to be great. And she said, are you crazy? We have a family. And he said, yes, and they are going to have some fun. And so with a lot of hesitation from his wife and a lot of energy in this man's heart, he started out and he started selling them to all over the nation. And he did well. So over a few months and a few years, his wife was like, okay, fine. We'll be all right. And then one day, in 1955, he just suddenly started getting calls from these people who he's never heard of before, saying, hey, I want a milkshaking machine. They call them multi-mixers. And they said, I want a milkshaker machine. He said, what type? They said, oh, the type that the guys in San Bernardino have. And he's like, well, everybody's got my machines. I can get you some. So he would send one over. And then week after week after week, he would get these calls. And then he said, what is going on in San Bernardino? And then he found out from the staff that this one shop, this one restaurant, does not have one multi-mixer, which could do 5 milkshakes every minute. This one shop had 8 of them. And he could not believe it. He said, how can one outfit, one restaurant, have the use of 40 milkshakes being churned out every minute? What is this place? It baffled his mind. So he flew down to San Francisco or LA, I think, and he talked to his agent, and the agent said, yeah, they're a good customer, they're great. And he heard the vibes, and so he drove down to San Bernardino, and he got there at 10:30, 10:15, 10:30, and he just sat in his car. And there was this little outfit, octagonal building, a big parking lot. It was a standard drive-in restaurant, and he just sat in his car and he watched. And so these workers came by, spiffy white outfits, spiffy white shirts and trousers, and they started to do their chores. They started picking up sacks of potato and dragging them in, they started picking up buns, and then they started sweeping the place a little cleaner than it already was. And he watched them, and then in the span of the 15 minutes, the few workers became a multitude of workers, and it was like a line of ants just scurrying about doing work. And it hadn't hit 11 o'clock yet. But the moment 11 o'clock hit, a shutter went up in the serving counter, and before 11, at 10:55, the customer's vehicles started piling in. And this man's sitting in his car and he's washing everybody. And there's just a pile of people lining up at the counter. And the restaurant hasn't even opened yet. It was like a Chipotle. And so he's just sitting over there and he watches them. And the line does not stop. And he's just sitting in his car, hungry, for hours. And then he watches that behind the building, there's a worker in construction overalls relishing this amazing sandwich. Just next to him, there are workers from another factory nearby. So he goes and asks them, how often do you come here? And the guy says, every damn day. So much better than the cold cut sandwich that the old lady has. And then he's looking around and he sees this yellow convertible car, this beautiful blonde lady sitting in the car and attacking the sandwich. So he goes up to her and he says, how often do you come here? And she looks up at him, middle-aged guy, 50-something years old. She looks up at him, as often as I can, because my boyfriend lives here. And I like to see him as often as I can. And she's like, every time I'm in this area, of course I come here. So he gets in the line, and he asks the worker in front of him, what is this line for? What are these people doing here? He's like, you've never eaten here before? He's like, no. And so the worker says to him, well, you'll find out. The best damn burger you've ever had, 15 cents. And no messing around either. No tipping waitresses. No messing around. And so he's like, that's quite impressive. He walks up to the counter at 2:30 when the line is finally dwindling to an occasional customer. And he looks inside and all 8 of those machines are churning out milkshakes. And he doesn't remember whether he had his burger that day or not. But he went up to the McDonald's brothers and he said, you have an amazing outfit here. And he said that something went off in his mind. And when he went up to these individuals, they looked at him and they said, oh, Mr. Multi-Mixer. And he's like, yes, I'm the one who sells you those machines. They're like, oh, these have served us well. And so they have a meeting that night. And the McDonald's brothers tell them that what we do here is we strip down our burger making process to the bare essentials. It takes us less than 60 seconds to fill anybody's order, no matter how large it is. The idea is to keep it clean, to keep it quick, and to keep it with a lot of value to the customer. So Mr. Kroc, fascinated by the whole process, takes a step back and goes back to meet with them the next day. And he says, I want to help you franchise this restaurant. Now the McDonald's brothers have been making $100,000 a year, and this is 1955. They're happy with their $100,000 a year. They don't want no more money. So they say, no, we're not interested. We tried it. We sold 20 franchises. We're not making any money out of it, and it's too much headache for us. He says, I'll do it for you for free. So he goes back to his wife, and he says, honey, we're not going to sell multi-mixers anymore. We're going to be selling restaurants. And so she just raises her hand. She says, you go for it. So for $950 a franchise, at 1.9% returns, he sells restaurant franchises for McDonald's for the next 8 years for free, for no pay. 5 years later, after the acceptance from the brothers, he decides that these people, they don't know how to run the franchises anymore. He does. But he needs the name. So with no capital in his house, running on savings, he raises $2.7 million to buy off the McDonald's brand name. $2.7 million in 1958. And by 1960, there are 710 McDonald's franchises in America. His aim is that one day there will be 12,000 McDonald's franchises in the world. Today, there are 33,000 McDonald's franchises. When he started out, when he was 700, KFC had 1,000 outlets. But McDonald's beat and destroyed KFC's competitive plethora with their supply chain. They beat Burger King by the sheer aggressiveness of how much they expanded. And they are now, well, in 1980, 10 months after Ray Kroc died, they became a member of the Dow Jones, one of 30 most successful companies in America. Ray Kroc went from pauper to millionaire, but he said only one thing. He said that a stagnant organization is ruining. He said one thing, ladies and gentlemen, this is my message to you. He said, and he made his fortune at the age of 53. At 53, he took the risk. He went out and worked for free for 8 years, and then at the age of 65, became a millionaire, selling McDonald's franchises to, right now it serves 19 million people in the world. And he had one saying, and that went, as long as you're green, you're good. The moment you're ripe, you rot. Next time you have a hamburger, it has only gone from 15 cents to $1, but it has changed the world. In Moscow, when the revolutionaries wanted to send America a message, they went and blew up a McDonald's outlet. And they said, we have sent a strong message to imperialist America. The Golden Arches have changed the world. At the age of 53, one man did it. No matter how old you are, you can too. Thank you.